now in a different role here. I'll be talking about how maintainers feel in this age of AI. It will be a lot about feelings and about emotions, not only about the technical aspect of it. My name is Jarek Potiuk. I'm Apache Airflow PMC, also Apache Software Foundation member, also member of the security committee, which means that I have a lot to do with to deal with security issues which are being reported to us in big numbers. So a big part of that is the experience of running, being one of the maintainers of big projects with lots of PRs and lots of issues and lots of security issues. And also the same for security issues which are reported to the Apache Software Foundation. As you know, AI agents are everywhere. No need to repeat all that. And the story told by many in the industry is like the AI agents are going to replace us, and we are afraid of that. Like there is this prevalent feeling like, why am I still here? Everywhere you can hear about layoffs. However, and everyone says, and this is quite obvious, that you can do the same things with less number of people involved. Like something that you could do before in months with 10 people, now you can do in a week with like 1 or 2 people. You know, that's quite obvious. It is happening right now. So maybe businesses do not need humans at all. People are asking those questions, and that's a bit scary, especially in our industry, where we are used to get a good money, work in the industry, and like, you know, the need for us is there. And of course, but that's actually, I'll tell later that it doesn't look that bad, at least not how I see it. I think it looks much better. But from the open source point of view, I'm one of the few people who is fully paid for doing purely open source contributions. The AI agents are causing us a lot of troubles as well. So like that's the side of the open source maintainers. And I'll tell today more about like how we are attempting to deal with it and how we are trying to solve the problem, which affects open source maintainers, in the way that we are seeing human in all that, and where the human role is, and how the interaction with agents look like. And that might also be very much useful for other software engineering, software development, not only open source. So I wanted to share that story and our approach so that you can also learn from that, even if you're not open source maintainer or contributors. So like, who had recently problems with GitHub stability? Like a lot of people, yeah. So we see the visible sign of problem. There are lots of unattended agents or attended agents that create PRs, issues. We also see another angle of those open source being in trouble is like lots of security issues in open source code is being found right now by those agents. Who haven't heard about Mythos and, you know, Anthropic Glasswing projects that's been in the news recently? And Ruth was talking about this kind of security implications in the keynote. An example from our side, like we had we usually had not about 100 open PRs in Airflow at a given time. Now we have 500 because we have so many PRs created that we are not dealing with them regularly or at the same speed as before. And we used to have like maybe 10 security issues reported to us a month. Now we have more than 30. And you can very visibly see that here. Those are our progress of the security issues being reported to us. So if you can see the last few years, it was like more or less stable. And January 2026, things started to look very much like a hockey stick. Those are issues reported. The funny thing, and this is what I'm trying to show today as well, is like we saw that happening. We did some remediation. We did some, I will tell exactly what we did. And that's the moment where in Airflow, I introduce the skill-based solution to deal with those security issues. And the red one here, so the blue one is the number of security issues. The red one is the how many untriaged issues we have in Airflow. And you can see, like, after introducing the tool immediately, like we had 10 times more issues, but all of them are triaged or fixed. Or mean time between the fix is like dropping dramatically. It was increasing here. Like those are a little bit of outliers. But we have like 10 times more, or like 3, 5, sometimes 10 times more issues to handle. We handle with them much faster, much better. How we have done that. So I'll tell about that. Because there is a good thing about agents, and that's something that we should see as engineers or people who are working in the industry, that we can actually utilize agents to help us with all this kind of overload, because they can do the work for us, and especially the work which is boring, which is like mostly repetitive tasks. And you don't have to tell people, those agents, exactly what to do. You can describe them what you want to achieve, and then they will do it for you. And that makes this whole process of using agents to help you with kind of almost repeatable stuff, but something that you used to click here and there, and then go here and there, do some kind of boring stuff, writing the same email for the 50th time, responding to people, sometimes like copy-pasting canned responses to people who are reporting security issue of that. Like if you can cut down, so my thinking is like, if you can cut down this part of the process where you do as a maintainer all this kind of boring stuff that is really not something that you want to do, then we can actually get back a lot of time of maintainers to do the real stuff, which means like looking at the PRs and deciding if they are good or not. Or just talking to other people, asking them questions. Why do you want to implement it this way when the PR is proposed? Or talking to the security reporter, did you really, I mean, is it really something that you see in real life that can be exploited? So right now, with agents, what I discovered over the last few months, because I'm very new into the agents, but I'm already bought into it very much, is like you can express with the agents the intentions that you want to, that you have, and they might figure it out for you what your intentions were. So for example, this graph, which you just show, I literally, I had the database of security issues, and I literally expressed the intentions. I wanted to see this kind of graph with those kind of informations, and 5 minutes later I had it. Then I iterated over it. Previously, if I would, not a UI or graph guy or whatever, I'm a software engineer, like doing something like that, it would take me, I could do it, but it could take me quite a long time. And then fixing them and improving, etc., that would take a lot of time. Right now, I just can, okay, I want to see that. There it goes. So that's one of the things that gives me a lot of time back, because otherwise, if I wanted to see that, I wouldn't have to. I wouldn't have time for something else. And one person can do way more than before, especially if the person is not just a coder focusing on the code, but also the person who is like understands their project, understands why we are doing things, why we are not doing things as well. And now when you understand that and you can express your intentions about what you want to do, you can achieve way more with the agents, because it can do all this boring stuff or all the stuff that you don't want to learn, but you have to do, like creating the graphs, for example. And that gives humans more time. And this is my, so there are many places, that's my kind of hypothesis, there are many places where human judgment is very, very useful, and we should just focus on building our workflows in the way that the part that is boring, that can be repeated, that is not really, doesn't require human judgment, should be done by the agents, and you should only do things where your judgment is needed, because this is super valuable thing. The judgment of people is super valuable. And traditionally, open source is like about human-human collaboration. We have Community Over Code conference, and Ruth mentioned that at the very beginning of Berlin Buzzwords, because we believe community is more important than code. Apache Software Foundation doesn't create code. Apache Software Foundation creates communities that contribute the code to Apache Software Foundation, and Apache Software Foundation releases that. Code is really literally a byproduct of the human collaboration. And the problem with agents in OSS, open source right now is like maintainers are really burning out right now, mostly because they think they are talking to agents. So you have lots of PRs, lots of issues, and you have no idea if those things were generated by humans. And they came to the open source because they wanted to interact with other humans. This is really why open source people are contributing to open source, because they really want to interact with other humans. And open source is really a relationship between people writing software together, and the idea is like how we can like keep it with the agents. And I think like using agents as tools to enable this conversation and make them like give people time back to do those conversations is a very interesting idea that we are following right now. So in the past era, it was like a few months ago, there were maintainers and contributors, and contributors were producing code, reviewers were reviewing them, and conversations happen on the code, not on the, like, a lot of conversations happen on the code, not really on the, like, what the code is implementing, what kind of feature we're implementing. Like, that was there also, and that's always been there. But a lot of the conversations that happen at that time, okay, is your code good? Is it performant? All this kind of, all the, like, is this for loop really the right way of writing it? So that were the conversations between humans and like a few months ago. Is it really a conversation where you start to understand other person thinking? Maybe not. Maybe you want to get people and contributor and talk to them to understand if they really get the project, if they really know why we are doing this, if they have their own human judgment on things. But that, for me, that's a much more interesting conversation than conversation on the for loop. Yeah. So what we have now, we have mostly review, because agents are working and send us something to review. Some human contributors, as they always did, they send us their changes. More often than not, we got the changes prepared with the agents by the contributors, and that's the most likely thing that we see. And this means that even if you are yourself using agents, you are mostly reviewing the code of the agent that was produced by you. And you're not really reviewing at least not me at this moment, not really reviewing all the nitty-gritty details of things, how they are done, but more like, does it do what it is intended to do? Like, it doesn't make sense? Is it like really implementing what I want? And this kind of review you can still do on this, this gives you this human-to-human interaction if you are interacting with other human, even if there are agents both producing the code and your agents, for example, reviewing that code on the level of, technical, whether the code quality is good. And then once this part is passed, you can start talking, like, is it really something we want? So I really want to, what I'm thinking of review process right now, the most important part, and this is something like, for me, that's a bit of a revelation. I mean, if we can free our time from doing this kind of detailed review of code, we can just start talking to humans about the things that really matter. Yeah, this is what I want to talk to my contributors. And also, there is a big change coming in the way how engineering engineering development is developed or happens. Previously, like, we have this kind of roles: product manager, engineer, and engineering manager. Each of those roles had different kind of ways of working. Product manager thought at the high level about the product. Yeah, engineer was usually developing the code, creating stuff. That product manager defined. Then engineering manager was really managing many of those engineers, trying to make them happy, more or less, or cooperate together. Depends on the company. And right now, my feeling is that my role is really all three of that. Yeah, so I have to be a good engineer. I have to be product manager to decide on what kind of things I want to implement, and engineering manager because I have right now 8 of agents working for me at the same time, like 8 interns working on something that I'm working as in a team. So, but this means something very interesting. And if you remember the XKCD comic about, context switching and, this cloud of things disappearing when you interrupt someone for 5 minutes, we as engineers, we have to learn how to do fast context switching. Because at any given time, we are switching from being product manager to being engineer and being engineering manager when you are trying to use agents to multiply your work. And why? The main thing is like humans are concurrent and they are not parallel. Yeah, if you know the difference between concurrency and parallel, human can switch between tasks. Like it costs. There is a context switching cost, of course, as always has been. But you cannot think about 2 things at the same time. This is impossible. This is not how human mind works. But then you can have agents, and you can have 8 of them in parallel. And that's when I realized that, okay, that's a standard thing. Okay, you can have concurrent level context switching, things done in parallel by those 8 agents. So if you learn how to context switch efficiently, how to use those 8 parallel streams that are running at the same time, 8 or 4 or 6, whatever, wow, you can achieve 8 times more. Really. And that's happening when you are starting to be proficient in using agents and running multiple of those. But then there are some problems because the right way of approaching that is like surface the enough context for the human who is context switching to be able to make the judgment. So you have to write your agents and write your skills, because like this is mostly what I'm talking about, in the way that those skills will give you all the information needed so that you as a human can make the right decision. And I completely don't, and I do believe the human judgment is very much needed, and that the context that you get to make the judgment cannot be too big, because you have to be able to very quickly make a decision, like is it good direction or not good direction when you are working with those agents. So I completely don't believe in those agents which are running for days and producing ready-to-use things. It just doesn't make sense, because nobody can comprehend even what happens during those few days. But something done during an hour or 30 minutes, yes, you can very easily comprehend that, especially if you look what the agent was doing while doing it. So that's for me the kind of unit of work that we are talking about right now, which is really good. So you interrupt at the right frequency. And for me, it's really like Agile was always, for me, very interesting concept, and I loved that. Then it was like kind of changed completely, with all the processes and like whatnot. But the whole idea of Agile was like doing frequent interruptions, doing often checks, and correcting your course. And this is exactly what I'm thinking now, working with agents. Just correct the course of those agents which are going in the wrong direction, being a human, doing the right judgment. And that has a fantastic compound effect, because if you interrupt every few moments and make a good decision for the agent so that it can follow, this compound effect of good decision is going up. If you don't have this interruption, some agents might make good decisions, some might make bad decision, and like the compound effect kind of disappear. So yeah, that's for me. This is my daily workspace. Those 8 terminals here, when I'm switching between different clouds, using different things very quickly. I even wrote a plugin that makes the background violet, so that I can see that the agent is waiting for my my input and judgment. I stopped using IDE. I do the context switch all the time. And for me, it's a little bit going back in time, because we used to use CLI 50 years ago or 40 years ago, not IDEs. And now we are going back to the CLIs. That's a very interesting thing. Where is the human? So human is okay, we are talking to those agents, but exactly the thing is like, when we do those decisions, when we do them at the right level, there is those places where you interrupt and you say, okay, now I want to talk to, like, even if you are using the agent to like help you to do review, it provides you the review, looks at the like what, is it good or bad, you might make the right decision. And at this moment, okay, you can make the decision, okay, I want to talk to that human who is driving this kind of change and tell them like, okay, maybe we should change it differently, maybe it should be done differently, or maybe doesn't make sense, or maybe let's close it because it doesn't make sense, and that's the reason. So for me, those kind of quick interruptions and agents doing stuff, it makes a lot of more of my time to think is if that thing makes sense or not, and to make decisions to whether I want to talk to another human or not. So that's the human there. And a little bit of going back in time. Sorry again. I'm not that old, so I don't remember punch cards. But who knows? Who remembers punch cards? Who had them in their high school or in the university or something? Nobody had them. I used to get them to write things on them because they were not used when I started university, but we had plenty of them lying around. And I don't know if you know where the patch name comes from. You know, like we know what the patch is, yeah? All of you. Would you know where it comes from? Does anyone know? Because like there was holes in those punch cards, and when there was a mistake, people just put a little bit of scotch tape on it to patch them. That's where it comes from. And there are some experts who in that. The people who were really, really good in that. And most of those people at those time, they talked about like their conversations were like, how do we patch things? How do we do it in the right way to be more efficient? Yeah. Then we have assembler. Oh, that was a step up. Yeah. And then people just started to talk how to write the good code using this assembler code and stuff. Then we had C. Ooh. Yeah, that was like, oh, fantastic, we can do more. We can do more. And we started to talk about completely different things. We started to talk about like memory corruption, about like how to write efficient programs using the C so that the compilers, which were fantastic tools for those people, can produce a good optimized code. Then, 2010, I'm moving fast in time, we had these formatting style things and lots of discussion. I still remember them, and that was my times, where people would discuss, do we want this curly brace here or there? Or is it really right formatting? Lots of discussions. I loved the time when we introduced black in our flow, and that stopped all those discussions because black was completely not configurable. And like that was one way of doing things. Then, you know, like we had like RAF, linters, type checkers, CI. You know, I developed CI in my company when long time ago when the CI term wasn't even there. But like in 2010, 15, something, it became kind of normal to use those RAF linters. And then we also stopped talking about these typical errors, typical programming errors you make. Because RAF and linter and all the other stuff, they just caught it for us. So we don't even talk about that. It's just something that you do in your CI or pre-commit or whatever. But we don't, we don't discuss those things anymore. Then, well-structured code, because all the other things were already covered. So we started discussing, is this architecture right? Is this like the right abstraction layer in code? That's cool. Right now, I think we are moving in the direction when we start talking more about why and what, and not how to do it. Do I really need to make a perfect architecture of this particular solution if it's good enough and it serves the purpose and optimization is not the kind of most important thing for us at this moment? Let's talk about like why we're doing this, what we are doing, not whether a particular thing is optimal or not. And agents can actually, very nicely resolve most of those problems that we used to discuss even a few months ago. But I don't think we need to discuss about that. So that's why we propose 22 now PMC Apache Airflow members. We propose a new project which is supposed to handle this kind of transition. Apache Magpie is the proposed name. It's still being voted by the board. Right now, there is a thread running about that, whether it's going to be, when it's going to be the top level project of Apache. But the idea was, Magpie is a really nice bird. It brings interesting things to people. It is very, very popular all over the world, everywhere. And it is a corvid and one of those birds that actually recognize human faces. So Magpie knows to who they are looking at. So that was our inspiration for the name. And what Magpie is basically, right now, it's a set of skills that kind of give back the time. So help people to run all these boring stuffs in using the agentic skills so that they can very quickly do things that they usually needed to do as maintainers, but they were not necessary, like triaging issues, classifying security issues which are coming, responding to them, communicating with reporters who are reporting them, making order in that, finding out how many of them we still have to work on, etc., etc. This all can be very nicely automated with agents, and none of that actually is a interesting conversation with humans. It's more kind of like just boring stuff, repeatable stuff, but not repeatable enough that it was easy to automate before. It is easy to automate now. So we had like this deterministic. We went through several different approaches. So like a deterministic Python approach, which is similar to what I've done before for Airflow for development environment that we had called Breeze. Yeah, it's a Breeze to develop Airflow. That was like the interesting theme that I came up, the name. So Magpie is very similar kind of thinking of name is important. But it turned out that it's not the best thing. I tried the CLI, I tried the TUI approach to, have a list of those PRs to look and some actions that you can do on them. But then it wasn't flexible, hard to maintain, hard to modify. And I think it was solving the wrong problem. So I turned back to 60 years ago. Because like my career actually started as a COBOL programmer. Like, who wrote COBOL programs? You did? Oh, okay. So I have a joke that at the end of my career, I will be the only COBOL programmer left in the world, and I will get very good salary from just going for 1 hour to a bank which still runs on COBOL and fix their problems. That's my dream. But the thing is, like with COBOL, that was the first attempt to write an English-like language. Like SQL was also a little bit of that, but far less English than COBOL is. Literally in COBOL, you wrote programs by writing English. For example, what you see now, multiple hours work by hourly rate giving gross pay, it's a valid statement in COBOL. Actually, it's not valid because it misses a dot. So they even have a dot at the end to signify the end of the sentence. It didn't work very well because the interpreters of COBOL were very limited, of course. And failed miserably. We moved to other kinds of programming, not like it's also language, but like not English really. But now with LLM powers, English is a new programming language that we can use. And skills are fantastic because skill is not a script, it's not a CLI command, not a TUI panel. A skill is just instructions to the agent what they should do, written in English. They are read and executed by an interpreter, which is an agent. And they can do fantastic stuff. And you don't have to be very precise in describing things that it should do, precise enough so that they don't go completely bonkers. But you can just describe your intentions. You can just describe in those skills, this is what I want to do. And the agent will follow your intentions mostly. Well, of course, non-determinism and stuff, we know all of that. But it's even better because it turns out that when you're writing skill, you can express intentions to what should be written in the skill, and agents will actually do that. So you can actually express intentions what you want to get at the end, and the agent will convert it into instructions for the agent, and this agent will be executing those instructions and will implement your intentions, which is like a fantastic thing. Like another skill has like name, description, what triggers it, instructions in plain English, references to other skills in order to save the context. It also, and this is very important part, it also has a partially deterministic code in. So if there are pieces of your interaction that you really want to be deterministic, you can write just normal Python, Groovy, whatever code to actually implement this particular thing that you're interested in being deterministic. For example, in our case, we have a script or like small program in Python that produces a JSON CVE record that we are sending to Vulnogram in order to prepare it for creating CVE in CVE system. So it's like a markdown file with structure and why they're working for this kind of work? Because the English is the right language. You express your intentions directly. It's reviewable. I mean, anyone can review the skill because it just describes what you want in English. You don't have to know the code and the programming language. It's easy, trivial to modify, which means like iterations can be super fast. All that you have to change, you can say, okay, in this part of the skill, I would like this to behave differently, or even better, which is like even better, because there is this fantastic self-reinforcing loop. Because when you are running the skill, you can stop the agent at any time and tell it do something differently and correct the agent. And when you write in your skill at the beginning, if there is anything you find out that you need to fix, just contribute it back. When you're interacting and interacting with the skill in the CLI, after your session, it will actually, okay, I've learned something new. Shall I create a PR to update my skill to do it next time? It will do it on its own. And this means that every time you run the skill, your skill gets better. And this is a fantastic, the best property of the agentic skill working that I saw. Because also, that was my dream always when I developed a developer environment. So my experience with developer environment, like I was the only one using it or developing it. Nobody else touched it with a stick because like normally it works. If it doesn't work, they come to me and fix it because like they have no idea how it works. Right now we have this that, okay, if the skill doesn't work for you and you corrected it, it will actually even create a PR for you, how to correct itself. So if you find a problem, you fix it by conversational interface with the agent, and then it will fix itself. So people will not come to me, hopefully. They will be just fixing the skills as they will be using them. So users of this kind of skills, maintainers, are becoming also developers of the same skill without them even kind of consciously deciding about that, which is fantastic. So for senior people, I've learned, and this is something that I use every day for my skill development or agent development. I'm just expressing intentions, what I want. And I even wrote an article, "Intention is all you need," where I'm describing my travel from like being a regular engineer writing a code to someone who does 3 times more PRs and writes no code whatsoever, just expressing intentions. Because this is my change over the last 2 months. And in this case, experience of people making the right judgment are the very important ones. So actually, my learning since I wrote that article, that intention is not everything, you also have to have intuition. So with this context that you see and with the kind of issues that remember from the past, even like unconsciously, as a human, you can make the right judgment because you've been burned by certain situations, so you know where to connect things, even if you are not able to clearly express your intention. And that's why this feedback loop is very important. You express your intention, you see the result, and then your intuition tells you, no, it should be different. So when you combine those two, magical things happen. But of course, question like for juniors who do not have that intuition yet, how to get them? And my answer to that for people who are trying to get and use it and they are not very experienced is to be curious, just to challenge the agent, just to learn it. Because like you can learn a lot of stuff from what agent is trying to do, seeing how it's trying to do. And then you can just, by being curious and asking the right questions, you can get like why it's doing that. Like, and maybe it's lying, maybe it's hallucination. But if you dig deep enough, you can find out, even if you don't have that intuition. So there is still, so the workflow for juniors is a little bit different. It's like, I think the senior people, they can just go very quickly, very quickly, just, get the feedback loop, make the judgment and go and go and go and go. For juniors, it's more like the learning experience. And I encourage them to treat agents as a learning tool, actually. But the workflow is very similar. It's just conversational interface that you act with. And then you build your cortex, not your memory. So you build your kind of intuition on what's good or what's bad. And of course, the most important, the invariant that never change, you have to talk to people. I mean, if you're alone with your agent and you are a junior, probably you won't learn too much. But if you interact with other people and ask them and interact, like come to the events like here and talk to them like what you've been doing or what worked, what didn't work, this is how you learn how to do stuff. So this has never changed. Community over code, Berlin Buzzwords, lots of other events that I'm coming to. This is like the place where I learn most, like by far, by just talking to others. And this hasn't changed and it shouldn't change. Lots of people are now, like traveling less for those kinds of events. But if you really want to go into engineering and like learning how to use the agents and stuff, like just go talk to the people, because like serendipity, I hate that word. So this now matters more, not less. Because usually when you worked in your company before, you worked in a team, and that came kind of naturally that you were talking to people. Right now, there is an expectation that you will be working mostly with your agents, not with other people, not directly. So this kind of meeting people is really become important. That's all. There is my article on the left side. On the right side, there is a soon to be moved, hopefully, project currently Apache. The name is Apache Steward historically, but we cannot use the name. It's going to be Apache Magpie if all the stars align very soon. And I encourage people to make good use of it. It's already very easy to adopt to any projects and implements like issue triaging, security issue management, PR triaging, and a number of other things, especially like kind of infrastructural things, setting up the environment for you to run in a secure way, privacy, and all the stuff that is needed. I hope we will get many more users outside of the Apache Software Foundation as well as inside. And this is our way how we try to empower OSS developers in the era of AI agents. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of few minutes for questions. Yeah.
It seems I ask a lot of questions, but sorry. So what happens when maintainers no longer, because they don't work directly in the code, right? Because of agent, they no longer like use or dog food their code for a specific project. For the specific project they are maintaining, isn't there a risk of a disconnect between the maintainers and the project itself?
But the agents that don't change that. You can still use your code, use your project if you want. And the funny thing, I don't tell anyone. I'm the #1 maintainer for Airflow. I've never run Airflow, like in production anywhere. Like I'd never ever. Like my first encounter with Airflow was I evaluated it for a robotic AI startup long before I started contributing to it, and we rejected Airflow because it was too heavy for us. And since then, I've never actually run Airflow for anything for myself, which a lot of PMC members do. So we have a lot of people who are actually running PMC Airflow in their production, in their systems, and the agentic work in this case doesn't change much because they are still using it. So like that doesn't change much.
Thank you. Yeah, something that troubles me a bit is like Claude, for example, is trained on code, been all over the internet, and we use it. So we're not writing new code. We're using it, reviewing it. So in the future, it will be retrained with its own code. And is there going to be any like breakthrough, new concepts developing in programming?
Mm-hmm.
How will that work?
That's a very, very good question. I think like you don't do everything with agents. Like there are people like I'm the kind of maintainer. I'm usually very good in like helping others and trying to make them more productive. I contributed so far very little actual new features, but some people in Airflow still contribute code like usual without the agents. But also, I think the agent is like when you combine human and agent together and you are kind of chatting, even though it is trained on the old code, the ideas that you can put in are still new and you can get those ideas implemented. Because most of the ideas we do is just an iteration on something done in the past, maybe improving that incrementally. There are very rarely like super new ideas. And even if they are, you can probably describe your intention that you want to get, and you will mostly get there, even if the code, nobody wrote this kind of code before. It's the intention that is really important.
Imagine if there were no agents. I claim that something like Apache Magpie would still have a value, but it would be a bit different in the sense of it feels like it's how-to guides for maintainers with a knowledge exchange about how to effectively triage some security issue, for example.
Yes.
But from your framing, it sounded more like very agent-focused. Is this knowledge exchange among maintainers also a big part of it, or am I
Yes. So,
misunderstanding?
like the nice thing about this being a skill that it doesn't really it only describe the workflow, how these things work and where to put stuff. But as a big base of that is like the rules that your own project describes. This is how we work. This is how pull request we want to be. This is how we want people to communicate with us. So the skill itself is very generic. It just shows you like what happens next, which, like what kind of things, when, for example, when somebody doesn't respond for 5 days and you can configure that, how to nudge that person, etc. But actually it is reading the guidelines from your project, how they are defined there already. So this is like a very generic like workflow running, and then when you join it with your project, it will just be powerful because it uses your project's kind of definition of what is good or bad. So yeah, it's like, so I built a lot of that on like just looking at what we have in Airflow, but so we've done that now in super generic way. So it's just really reading it and understanding. And this is the cool stuff, because you wrote those instructions in English. You didn't write them in any kind of machine language. And agents are really good in reading English, so they can understand the intention that you had when you describe what your project should do, and then they put it into your skill. So that skill will work completely differently in Airflow and Groovy and other projects that are using it. But still, it will work as your intention of your project was.
Okay, we're out of time, but thank you so much, Jarek. Really a pleasure.
Thank you, Ite.